I never thought my life would turn into something that felt like a Netflix show. But the night I found out my mom was sleeping with my chemistry teacher, everything I believed about my family, my school, my future shattered. At first, all I felt was rage. The kind of rage that makes your hands shake so bad you can't even type a text without smashing the letters. I couldn't look at her, couldn't talk to her, couldn't even sit at the same dinner table without wanting to scream. She kept begging me to listen, saying there were things I didn't understand, that it wasn't what I thought. But come on, what else could it be? She was having an affair with my teacher, a man I saw every single day, a man who graded my tests, who smiled at me in the hallway. And then she told me the truth, that it wasn't about love, or attraction, or some messed up midlife crisis. It was about drugs, not the kind you buy on the street, not pills in a sketchy parking lot. No, this was darker, smarter, hidden in plain sight. My chemistry teacher, Mr. Landon, was running a distribution network, using the school, using students, hiding poison inside extra credit projects and tutoring sessions. And my mom? She wasn't with him because she wanted to be. She was with him because the FBI had forced her into it. Yeah, the FBI. She'd been working as an informant for months, pretending to be close to him so she could get evidence. Audio recordings, photos, license plates, secret meetings, all while still coming home every night and making spaghetti like nothing was happening. When she told me this, my anger turned into something worse. Fear. Because suddenly I realized we weren't just a normal family anymore. We were in the middle of a war. The next morning, school felt different. The hallways buzzed with the usual noise, slamming lockers, kids laughing too loud, someone blasting music from their phone. But under it, I felt something invisible, like a current, like secrets crawling through the walls. I caught Mr. Landon watching me during first period. His eyes lingered just a second too long. My stomach twisted. Did he know my mom told me? Did he suspect me already? At lunch, I sat with my younger brother, Evan, and his best friend, Chris. They were joking about some video game, laughing so hard they almost spilled their sodas. For a moment, it felt normal again. Safe. Then Chris mentioned something weird. He said he heard about an opportunity from one of the older kids, a way to make extra cash by running errands for a teacher. He said the kid wouldn't say who, but it sounded kinda shady. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. My heart pounded so loud I thought they could hear it. It was happening again. Landon was recruiting, and my little brother's best friend might be next. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Chris, about how he was the exact type Landon looked for: quiet, smart, a little desperate for attention. The kind of kid no one would suspect. I got up and went downstairs. The house was dark except for the faint glow of the kitchen light. Mom was sitting at the table, papers spread everywhere. Photos, notes, a voice recorder. She looked up at me, her face tired but sharp. "You shouldn't be awake," she whispered. "I heard something today," I said, sitting across from her. My voice shook. "Chris, someone's trying to pull him in." Her face went pale. She grabbed her phone and typed something fast. "We'll get ahead of it," she said. "But you need to stay out of it. Promise me." "I can't just sit here," I said. "He's Evan's best friend. He comes over every week. What if?" Her eyes snapped to mine. Fierce. Almost scary. "Then you protect him. Quietly. You hear me? No one can know what we're doing. Not your dad. Not Evan. Not Chris. No one." My throat tightened. I wanted to scream at her for dragging me into this, for making me part of her secret war. But the words wouldn't come, because deep down, I knew she was right. The following day, I decided to test something. During chemistry, I accidentally dropped my pen near Mr. Landon's desk. While picking it up, I glanced at his laptop screen. He minimized a spreadsheet so fast I almost doubted I'd seen it. But in that split second, I caught something. Initials. Dollar amounts. A list. My stomach lurched. That wasn't homework. That was money. And I knew without a doubt that some of those initials belonged to kids I'd seen in the nurse's office, pale and shaking. When the bell rang, I forced myself to walk out casually. My legs felt like jelly. My palms were sweaty. I kept waiting for him to grab my shoulder to call me back, but he didn't, which made it worse, because maybe he was already watching me, testing me, waiting to see if I slipped. At home, I wrote everything down in a notebook I kept hidden under my mattress. Every detail, every glance, every overheard word. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because suddenly, this wasn't just my mom's fight. It was mine too. And the deeper I got, the more I realized if I made one wrong move, if I trusted the wrong person, if I even looked scared at the wrong time, we wouldn't make it out alive. By the end of that week, I wasn't just a student anymore. I was undercover, inside my own school. And the person I had to take down was my own teacher. The hardest part wasn't keeping secrets from strangers. It was keeping secrets at home. Dad had no idea. He thought Mom was just working late because of her job at the hospital, or tired because of double shifts. He didn't know that half those shifts were actually nights spent pretending to be the girlfriend of my chemistry teacher. I hated myself for it, but every time Dad smiled at her or kissed her on the cheek before leaving for work, I wanted to scream. Because he didn't know. And because I did. And now, I was lying too. At school, things got darker. 2 kids from my English class, Tyler and Marissa, stopped showing up. Rumor was they were sick, but I knew better. One afternoon, I slipped into the library during study hall and pulled up the attendance logs. Both of them had been excused with vague notes about medical leave. The same excuse Leah, Mom's FBI contact, had warned me about. These weren't sick days. These were overdoses. And Landon? He just kept smiling in class, handing out labs like nothing had happened. The FBI gave me a burner phone. Leah showed me how to use it, snap pictures fast, forward them without leaving a trace. No group chats, no save numbers, no patterns. That phone became my new shadow. I used it during lunch one day when I spotted Landon leaning too close to a sophomore near the vending machines. His voice was low, but I caught the words easy cash before the kid's eyes darted nervously. Click. Photo. Send. Delete. By the time I slipped the phone back into my pocket, my heart was pounding like I'd run a marathon. I wasn't a normal student anymore. I was evidence collector number 2. But playing spy came with a price. One evening, Dad walked into my room while I was scribbling notes in my black notebook. "What's that?" he asked casually. My hand slammed the notebook shut so fast it made a thud. "Just homework." He tilted his head, suspicious. "Homework that needs to be locked up like nuclear codes?" I forced a laugh, but my throat was dry. "You don't get it, Dad. It's private." He stared at me for a long moment. "You've been different lately. Jumpy. And your mom too." I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. But before he could push further, Evan burst into the room asking if I'd seen his headphones. Saved by my little brother. Still, I knew Dad's radar was on. And if he kept digging, the entire operation could blow. The next big break came during a teacher work session. Landon left his laptop unattended while running to the copier. I'd memorized his password weeks ago from watching him type it. My fingers shook as I logged in, pretending to look for a stapler in his desk drawer. Emails. Dozens of them. Most looked normal. Department memos, reminders, schedules. But then I found the folder. Research partners. Inside were threads with coded subject lines. Lab Mix A, shipment timing. Student trials. I opened one. Confirming. Distribution cycle matches dosage frequency. Risk of detection remains low. My stomach flipped. Another. Next session with initials CAM scheduled for Wednesday. Increase units. Monitor reaction. CAM. Kelly Martinez. A girl I'd seen faint in the hallway 2 weeks ago. I screenshotted everything. Every email. Every date. My phone buzzed from how fast I was snapping. Then I logged out, closed the laptop, and sat frozen in the chair, praying no one had seen me. That night, I handed everything over to Mom. She stared at the photos with her mouth pressed tight, her eyes scanning each message like she was burning it into her brain. "This is enough to push the Warrens forward," she whispered. My voice cracked. "So why not just arrest him now?" Her hands trembled as she put the phone down. "Because if we move too soon, the whole network scatters. He's just one branch. We need the root." I wanted to scream, to grab the car keys, drive to Landon's house, and smash through his front door myself. But I stayed quiet, because I knew this wasn't about me. It was about every kid he was still pulling into his orbit. 2 days later, something happened that almost blew everything apart. I was heading to class when Mr. Alcott, one of Landon's friends in the science department, stopped me at the door. "Mind if I check your bag?" he asked, smiling too much. I lost my calculator. My blood turned to ice. He unzipped the main pocket while students streamed past us into the room. My notebooks, my folders, my pens. My heart hammered against my ribs. The recorder sat in my jacket pocket like a brick. One wrong move and it was over. Alcott rummaged through everything. Gum wrappers, hall passes. He even unzipped the side compartment. I forced my hands to stay steady at my sides. Act normal. Act bored. Finally, he zipped it up and handed it back. All clear. I exhaled so slowly I thought I might pass out. But his smile lingered just a second too long. He knew, or at least he suspected. That night at dinner, Dad noticed the sweat still clinging to my neck. "Rough day?" he asked. I shrugged, stabbing at my mashed potatoes. Mom cut in quickly, changing the subject to Evan's soccer practice. But I caught the way she avoided Dad's eyes. Secrets were piling up in this house like dynamite. And I knew eventually, something or someone was going to light the fuse. Later, when Evan went to bed, I overheard Mom on the phone with Leah. Her voice was low, urgent. "They're tightening security. He's starting to test loyalty. We don't have much time." Her words made my blood run cold. Because if Landon was testing loyalty, then he was already looking at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt amplified, the creak of the stairs, the hum of the fridge, the wind against the window. And in the dark, one thought kept repeating in my head. If I slipped up even once, this wouldn't just be Mom's operation anymore. It would be my funeral. Day 5 started with shouting. I woke to the sound of Dad's voice tearing through the house. When I ran downstairs, he was standing in the kitchen waving a hotel receipt. His face was red, his fist clenched. "What the hell is this, Julia?" he yelled. Mom froze at the counter, her coffee mug halfway to her lips. "It's not what you think," she stammered. "Not what I think. You were at the Marriott last Tuesday. Alone? At midnight? You expect me to believe this was a work thing?" My stomach twisted into knots, because I knew exactly what she was doing there. Meeting Landon, gathering evidence, playing her role. But she couldn't say that, not without destroying everything. Evan stumbled in rubbing his eyes, and I grabbed his arm, pulling him back upstairs. "Come on, let's go." I blasted music in his room to drown out the argument. But even through the walls, I could hear Dad's voice breaking. 20 minutes later, the front door slammed. At school, Landon acted like the sun was shining just for him. He even called me to his desk during class. "Connor," he said softly, "I need someone I can trust. I've got a big job for you." My throat went dry. "Okay." He pulled a key from his pocket and set it in my palm. "Filing cabinet. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up. Organize the student files. Don't breathe a word. Only you." I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside I was screaming. Because if he trusted me, it meant he was watching me. During prep period, I slid the key into the cabinet lock. Files stacked neatly. Student names on every folder. At first, it looked harmless: grades, attendance, contact info. But then I saw the markings. A star next to some names. A circle next to others. I flipped through, my hands shaking. Stars equals divorced parents. Circles equals anxiety disorders. Some had both, with notes in Landon's handwriting. High potential, financial strain, mother works nights. Bram's files stopped me cold. He was one of Evan's friends, barely 13. His folder had a star and a circle, plus red ink scrawled across the page, promising. High potential. Recruit carefully. There were notes about his mom's work schedule, even which snacks he bought at lunch. I felt sick. This wasn't teaching. This was targeting. I took photos of every page and slid them back exactly where I found them. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. That night, Mom left after dinner, saying she had work. Dad didn't even look at her. When she came back 2 hours later, she was pale. She went straight to her room and called Leah. I pressed my ear against the wall and caught fragments. License plate, partial match, supplier vehicle. The net was tightening, but so was the danger. Day 6, I carried the recorder in my pocket. It felt like a brick. Landon left for a department meeting, and I snuck back into his files. This time, I found payment records hidden behind attendance sheets. Gift card codes, amounts, notes about dosage, hundreds of dollars tied to initials I recognized. Kids from my own classes. I snapped photos until my camera roll was bursting. And then footsteps. The door creaked open. Landon walked in. My heart nearly stopped. "What are you doing?" he asked. I grabbed a stack of worksheets off the desk, holding them up like a shield. "Organizing for grading, like you asked." He stared at me for a long, endless second. Then he nodded slowly and sat down at his desk. Good. Very good. I forced myself to keep sorting papers, even though my hands were shaking so badly the pages rattled. That evening, Mom drove me downtown. Leah was waiting in a dim office building. I showed her the photos. Her face tightened. "Connor, you're taking too many risks." "I can handle it," I said, though my voice cracked. "No," she snapped. "You can't. You're a kid. He's already suspicious. You're on his radar." Her words felt like a slap. But she softened a little, lowering her voice. "We need you, but you can't play hero. Promise me you won't follow him. You won't confront him. You only collect if it's safe." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I could keep that promise. The next day in chemistry, a basketball player raised his hand. "Mr. Landon, do you have anything that could help with focus during games?" Landon smiled. "There are supplements. Perfectly safe. Boost energy, improve concentration. Better than vitamins." I turned on my recorder under the desk. Every word was crystal clear. After class, I lingered to clean up beakers and test tubes, just like always. My routine, my cover. But my pulse wouldn't slow down. Because with every recording, every photo, every shred of evidence, I was digging deeper into a hole I wasn't sure I could climb out of. That night, Dad cornered me in the kitchen. "You've been quiet," he said. "Just tired. Don't lie to me, Connor." His eyes were sharp, searching my face. "I know something's going on. With you. With your mom. You're both hiding something." I opened my mouth, but no words came. And before I could think of an excuse, Mom walked in. "What are you two talking about?" "Ask your son," Dad said coldly, brushing past us. She gave me a look that said not now, but I could feel it. The fuse was burning fast. That night in bed, I stared at the ceiling, replaying Dad's words. If he kept pushing, if he discovered the truth too soon, he wouldn't just ruin the operation. He could get us all killed. Day 7 started with a scream. I was halfway down the hallway when I saw a sophomore collapse outside the cafeteria. Her friend was shrieking, trying to hold her up while foam spilled from her mouth. Teachers pushed through the crowd, one calling 911, the other starting chest compressions. Everyone froze, except Landon. He stood in the doorway of the science wing, watching with this cold, blank stare. No panic, no surprise. Just typing notes into his phone like he was documenting a lab experiment. I will never forget that. The paramedics stormed in. Oxygen mask, needles, a stretcher. They wheeled her out while kids cried and whispered. The intercom crackled, soft lockdown. Stay in classrooms until further notice. Through the small window of the door, I saw Landon pacing, muttering into his second phone. His face was tight, agitated. I pressed the recorder button in my pocket and angled myself toward the door, catching his words through the glass. Adjusting schedule, moving product sooner, new entry points. Every word was gold for the FBI, but my hands were slick with sweat because the overdose meant kids were already dying, and the operation wasn't slowing down. That evening, Mom drove us straight downtown. The FBI office felt more crowded than ever. Leah was there with a dozen agents, maps, and files covering the table. She looked me dead in the eye. Parent night is our window. The crowd will be cover. We'll take them all at once. I swallowed hard. All of them. Not just Landon, she said. Every teacher tied to this network. 5 districts. Coordinated arrests. No warning. Detective Harris unrolled a map with red dots across the city. These are your drop points. At exactly 8 o'clock, teams move in. My stomach turned. Parent night was only 3 days away. Back home, dinner was silent until Dad pulled something from his pocket. What's this? He dropped a small recorder battery on the table. My blood ran cold. It's mine, I blurted. Physics project. We're testing sound waves. Dad narrowed his eyes. Sound waves. Really? I nodded, too quickly. My voice cracked. Mom stared at her plate, saying nothing. The silence stretched until Evan broke it. Can we get ice cream? The tension cracked just enough for Dad to mutter something under his breath and stand. He walked out, leaving Mom trembling at the table. Later, while she washed dishes, her hands shook so hard one glass slipped and shattered in the sink. She whispered, "If your father pushes any harder, we'll have to tell him everything." I shook my head. It's too dangerous. But she looked at me with tears in her eyes. Connor, lying to him is tearing me apart. Day 8. Landon was waiting at the classroom door. Bag check, he said casually. Lost my calculator. Just making sure no one's borrowing it. My heart nearly exploded as he unzipped my backpack. Notebooks, pens, folders. The recorder was in my jacket pocket, heavy as a brick. If he reached there, it was over. He dug through every compartment, pulling out gum wrappers, old hall passes, even my phone. Then he zipped it shut, smiling faintly. All clear. He handed it back, but I knew. He was testing me. At lunch, a delivery truck pulled up to the loading dock. I watched from the window as boxes were rolled out. One box had different tape, thicker seams. The label looked wrong, the numbers slightly off. I memorized the tracking number, the delivery guy's batch, the exact time. During passing period, I slipped by the loading area, snapped 3 photos from different angles, then kept walking like nothing happened. My pulse pounded all the way down the hall. That night, Mom and I met Detective Harris in a coffee shop. He studied the photos, his eyes lighting up. This matches a shell company we've been watching for months, he said. Perfect. Exactly what we needed. Then his face grew serious. One more push, and we've got them airtight. But it means Connor has to keep going. Mom tensed. He's done enough. He's just a kid. He's our best lead, Harris cut in. Nobody else has this access. I sat there between them, my chest tight, knowing I didn't really have a choice. When we got home, Bram was sitting on our porch steps, tears streaking his cheeks. His mom had lost her job. Their landlord was threatening eviction. Evan rushed him inside, offering water, chips, video games. I hung back, watching, because Bram was exactly the kind of kid Landon's files targeted. Vulnerable. Desperate. I pulled him aside. Listen, Bram. If any teacher offers you money or special opportunities, don't take it. Promise me you'll talk to me first. He blinked, confused. Why? What's going on? I forced a smile. Just promise. After a moment, he nodded. Okay. But the doubt in his eyes told me he didn't understand the danger circling him. Day 9. Landon gave me another responsibility. Watching 5 kids take a makeup quiz during lunch. He stood in the doorway, arms folded, observing me, testing my control. I passed out the quiz papers, checked phones were put away, tried to look calm. My hands trembled as I sorted lab supplies behind the counter. When he finally left, I exhaled so hard I nearly collapsed. I turned to the supply closet, pulling open boxes of new equipment. One felt too light. I shifted it. Inside, something rattled wrong. My pulse surged. I knew exactly what it meant. Another false bottom. Another secret stash. The next 3 days crawled. Every hour felt like walking through wet cement. Dad pretended nothing was wrong, but I could see the storm building in his eyes. Mom barely slept, pacing the hallway at night like a ghost. And me? I kept replaying Landon's blank face as that girl was wheeled away, and I wondered how someone could be so empty inside. Finally, parent night arrived. The parking lot filled with cars. Families streamed toward the school with kids tugging at their sleeves. To anyone else, it looked like a normal evening. But I knew. Half the parents weren't parents. They were FBI agents in jeans and hoodies, walking with fake kids, blending in like shadows. I set up in the chemistry lab, arranging displays of student projects. My wire itched under my shirt, but Leah's voice in my ear was steady. Stay calm. Observe. You're just another kid tonight. From my spot by the window, I watched Mom. She was glued to Landon's side, laughing at his jokes, brushing his arm, playing her role so perfectly I almost hated her for it. But then she glanced toward me, just for half a second, and I knew she was doing it for us. 20 minutes into the night, Landon started his chemistry demonstration. Bright liquids turning colors in glass beakers, parents clapping like it was magic. He leaned toward another teacher and muttered, "Titrations at level 3 need adjustment." My chest tightened. A code phrase. Mom slipped her phone under the table, texting. I caught the flick of her hand, subtle but fast. Leah's voice came through my earpiece. Message received. Units in position. Then the white van pulled up to the loading dock. Wrong time. Wrong place. Deliveries never happened at night. Detective Harris's team tailed it with unmarked cars. Landon excused himself, muttering about supplies, and headed toward the back. For agents disguised as parents followed. I pretended to rearrange beakers, but my heart was slamming against my ribs. That's when I felt it, a shadow behind me. I turned. Landon, you and your mom have been very helpful, he said, voice low, eyes sharp. I froze. I just want to do well in chemistry, I stammered. Science fair's coming up. I really want to win. He studied me for a long, suffocating moment. Then Mom appeared, all smiles. Landon, do you need help setting up for the next demo? She brushed his arm, her other hand squeezing my shoulder, a signal. I nodded faintly. Message received. Stay calm. Landon left with her, heading for the auditorium. At exactly 8 o'clock, it erupted. Shouts outside. Red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Parents screaming. Kids crying. I ran to the window and saw Landon tackled to the pavement in the parking garage. Agents swarming him, shouting commands. At the same time, teachers across 5 districts were being cuffed and dragged out. It was happening. All of it. Then someone yanked me back from the window. An FBI agent in a windbreaker. This way. The hallways were chaos, cops yelling, families rushing out, kids sobbing into their parents' arms. The agent pulled me into the principal's office. Dad was there, holding Evan tight. When he saw me, he grabbed me and pulled me in two, his arms like steel around us both. Through the office window, I saw Mom being escorted past by 2 agents. She turned her head, just long enough to lock eyes with me. Then she was gone. We stayed in that office for 3 hours, watching boxes of evidence carried out, watching teachers I'd trusted walk away in cuffs, watching news vans pull into the lot. Dad never let go of us. Finally, near midnight, we were released. The parking lot was still alive with flashing lights, agents shouting into radios, camera crews filming every angle. I'd never seen anything like it. The next morning, every TV station had the story. Largest school drug bust in state history. 43 teachers arrested across 5 districts. Over 200 student buyers identified. We sat at the breakfast table, bowls of cereal untouched, just staring at the screen. Dad flipped the channel. Same story, different anchor, different set, but always the same words: kids, drugs, betrayal. None of us spoke, because what could you even say? 2 days later, the school held an assembly. The gym was packed: kids, parents, counselors, cameras. Principal Morton stood at the microphone, her voice cracking as she admitted the school had failed to protect us. She promised background checks, anonymous hotlines, stricter oversight. Some kids cried. Some parents shouted. The whole place felt like a funeral. We weren't just grieving the teachers we lost. We were grieving the trust. 3 days later, Leah took us to a family therapist downtown. The office smelled like crayons and hand sanitizer. Too childish, but maybe that was the point. Dad admitted he was furious about being shut out, but he understood why Mom had kept it secret. We talked about trust, secrets, scars. The therapist gave us homework: eat dinner together, no phones. Take walks. Talk. Try. It wasn't magic, but it was a start. That weekend, Evan had Bram over. They played video games in the living room, arguing about superheroes like nothing had happened. Bram's mom had a new job, better hours, more stability. He looked lighter, like a kid again. For the first time in weeks, our house felt normal. Almost. Leah came by that evening, sipping coffee at our table. Landon's cooperating, she said. He's giving us names of suppliers, testifying against the network. His deal will protect kids in 12 more districts. Mom nodded, her face pale. How long will he serve? 15 to 20 years with the deal, Leah said. Mom looked away, silent. Dad reached for her hand under the table. The school changed. Supply audits. New counselors. Posters with hotline numbers. Ethics training for teachers. Parents started trusting again, but cautiously. Kids whispered less, laughed more. Slowly, life trickled back. But I couldn't go back to the lab. When I stepped inside, the smell of chemicals made me shake. The cabinets, the countertops, ghosts of everything I'd seen. I told the new teacher I had to quit. She smiled kindly and said she understood. As I packed up my things, my chest felt lighter, like I was finally closing the door on it all. Now, we eat dinner together every night. Dad asks about our day. Mom answers honestly. Trust isn't perfect, not yet, but it's growing. And me? I'm still haunted by what I saw, but I'm also proud, because when the darkness closed in around us, we didn't let it win. We fought, and we survived.